What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Wednesday, October 22nd, 2025, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now, it is 16:04 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from Latin America and from Russia. So, last night, while we were live, we were listening to Russia transmitting high priority nuclear codes, and I posted them to Twitter or X, and a lot of jealous people were attacking me saying that I was wrong. And what I said was that Russia was about to launch their missiles as part of their exercise because the nuclear codes were increasing in intensity and frequency. And we had some big accounts like attack me and call me stupid, call me an idiot, and that I didn't know what I was talking about. Well, sure enough, this morning it was confirmed by Russia that they test launched all of the missiles in their nuclear triad. So they launched their Saniva missiles from one of their nuclear armed submarines. They launched an RS-24 Yars from a silo, and then they also launched some missiles from their strategic bombers. So while everybody was attacking me out of pure jealousy because my post had a lot of views, and I've been getting a lot of traction on Twitter because I've been posting a lot there the last month. By the way, you need to follow me on Twitter. My account is at NYPrepper1. I post there throughout the day. I'm trying to post more on Twitter to have a backup to YouTube because YouTube's been shadow banning the hell out of me this year. So I've started to post a lot to Twitter. And so these big accounts were attacking me. Meanwhile, I was right, but it was out of their pure jealousy and hatred for me, calling me all kinds of vile things. But we were listening to this live last night. Take a listen. So the Russians were broadcasting this the last two nights, and it was getting louder and louder and more often. And that's basically common sense because they're going to increase their transmit power right before a launch of all their missiles to make sure that the signal gets out to all of their nuclear triad, because they have in the Far East missiles, and then they have missiles in the Barents Sea, which is close to Scandinavia, and that's thousands of miles apart. Okay, Russia is a huge country, so from the far eastern part of Russia to the European side of Russia, you're talking several thousand miles, so you need to crank up that transmit power. And so I was telling people the last two nights, and I posted on X that, hey, it's getting louder and louder. The signal's getting stronger. It means that they're about to launch. And then these self-proclaimed experts started attacking me, saying that I was a stupid simpleton. But really, it's common sense, okay? And I was right yet again. So please do me a favor and don't follow these guys because they're nasty and they don't know anything. And so here we have a picture of one of these missiles being launched by Russia. Here's another missile that was launched. And then here's another picture here. Okay, so Russia did launch all of the missiles in their nuclear triad, one from each leg of the nuclear triad, air, land, and sea. Vladimir Putin personally oversaw the test, okay? Now, interestingly, last night we had a presidential doomsday plane airborne over Iowa and Missouri, and it had its tracker turned off all night, and then it got aerially refueled over Missouri. So I don't know if this was related to the Russian missile launch or something else, but this was late last night. Could have been related to that car that crashed into a barricade near the White House, which I'll talk about in just a few minutes here. And this afternoon, we have U.S. nuclear forces on high alert again. Here we have a nuclear war command and control plane looping over central Kansas near Wichita, which is pretty strange because they typically do this looping pattern over water when they deploy their trailing wire antenna to communicate with submerged nuclear-armed submarines. So that's pretty unusual to do over land. And also we have a nuke sniffer airborne right now out of Offutt Air Base. This is probably the third day in a row that a nuke sniffer's been looping here. These planes can detect radiation in the atmosphere, and the nuke sniffers are typically used to detect radiation from nuclear tests or releases of radiation from nuclear power plant meltdowns. And this nuclear war command and control plane is responsible for communicating with our nuclear armed subs. It acts as a relay with a special antenna through VLF, very low frequency. It can penetrate the ocean water. And really, they would serve as a backup in the event of a nuclear war if the Russians were to destroy our fixed VLF transmitter sites in Maine, Washington, Hawaii, and Australia. If those got obliterated, these planes could still send out launch orders and targeting information to our nuclear-armed subs, because the subs, when they're underwater, that's the only way that they can communicate is through VLF, very low frequency. They cannot receive satellite signals or anything else. So really, these planes are super critical to our nuclear triad. And this is the second one that was airborne this afternoon. And last night, all of Ukraine was under an air raid alert. There was a massive attack on Ukraine. Several people were killed. I'm hearing as many as 6 people killed, including a child and a woman, and also 17 people injured in this massive missile attack on the capital. They hit some substations. I'm hearing they hit the CHP-5 and CHP-6 substations. So much of Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine, was without power last night. They were instituting emergency power rationing. They were shutting down the power in Sumy and also Chernihiv to ration electricity. And here's a picture showing all of the strikes on Ukraine last night. Okay, large number of missiles attacking Ukraine's energy last night. And interestingly, this afternoon, we also have a B-1 bomber looping over Oklahoma City, which is very unusual because there's no bomber base in Oklahoma City. And this is actually where the Nuclear War Command and Control planes are based out of, Tinker Air Force Base. So for a B-1 to be looping over Tinker Air Force Base is very unusual. It's not a bomber base. It's a base for the E-6 Mercuries that communicate with our subs. So potentially this could be related to an upcoming strike on Venezuela. Maybe they're somehow training with those E-6s at Tinker, maybe with communicating or interfacing, I don't know. But this is very, very strange, very unusual. And also I reported earlier in the week that the U.S. moved several B-1 bombers to Florida, okay, which is a lot closer to Venezuela than Texas, okay? So very, very concerning. And the Washington Post reported today that the decision to remove Maduro from power has been made by Trump and that there is no turning back. And this would either be through covert operations or overt direct action by bombing Venezuela, trying to bomb Maduro's palace, okay? So the decision to change the regime in Venezuela has already been made by Trump, according to the Washington Post. Now, we know that Venezuela has called up their National Guard. They've deployed forces to their beachfronts along the Caribbean because they're afraid that the Marines are going to land on the beaches and try to storm the capital. They've put up anti-tank barriers on one of the main highways through Caracas, the capital of Venezuela. And also they put their air defenses on high alert. So it's about to go down, okay? Trump is going to attack Venezuela. He's going to try to remove Maduro from power and put in a Western-friendly leader there. Okay, and that could happen in the coming days. It could happen any day, guys. And when it does happen, I will be covering it live 24/7 here on YouTube. I've covered lots of major world events, the invasion of Ukraine, the COVID lockdowns, everything. Okay, I'm no stranger to it, and I do a good job at it. So trust me as your source for covering major world events live in real time. Okay. And this video was sponsored by Just In Case Holsters. Guys, you need to get yourself a high quality holster for your personal defense weapon. And the company I recommend for high quality leather holsters is Just In Case Holsters. Now, these holsters are made in the USA by a veteran. And the holster that I really love for carrying a firearm in the woods is the Kodiak chest holster. I have one of these for my 357 Magnum, and the leather is really thick, really heavy duty, really beautiful, holds the firearm nicely, and you can draw the weapon very quickly, which is important in a personal defense situation. Now, he has a whole variety of holsters, not just these open carry chest holsters, but if you want to browse around their website, use the link in the description. It's justincaseholsters.com, and I have a special promo code that's going to give you 10% off of all of their products on their website, and the promo code is NYPrepper, and that's also in the description. So justincaseholsters.com. Use the promo code NYPrepper to get 10% off of any leather products on their website. And we're hearing some breaking news coming in from CBS that the U.S. struck another alleged drug vessel on Tuesday night, last night, on the Pacific side of South America, according to 2 U.S. officials. Okay, so on the Pacific side of South America. Very interesting. And last night, there was an unusually large number of Russian military aircraft in the form of command posts and doomsday planes that apparently flew from Moscow to the Urals. This was reported by various Russian mill bloggers. Okay, so apparently the Russian military has been relocated to the Urals, the high command of the Russian military, which means that something is about to go down, probably a strike on Venezuela. So there are 2 major bunkers in the Urals. You have Mount Yamantu, which is kind of more in the southern Urals, and then more in the central to northern Urals, you have Kazvinsky Kameny, which is where the Russian dead hand system is based out of, the Russian auto-launch doomsday weapon, okay, where Russia's nuclear arsenal can basically launch itself if the system detects nuclear bombs exploding through seismic sensors and radiation sensors. It can auto-launch all of Russia's missiles, and that's based out of Kazvinsky Kameny. And then there's also Mount Yamantu, okay? And the U.S. Treasury Secretary said this afternoon that the Trump administration is going to announce more sanctions on Russia, a substantial pickup in Russian sanctions either tonight or tomorrow. That's what he said, okay? So a substantial pickup in sanctions. Now, Trump said yesterday, when he was asked by a reporter why he hasn't planned to go to Hungary yet, he said that he doesn't want to waste his time and he doesn't want another wasted meeting. Okay, that's what he said. And we know that basically that Hungary meeting is not going to happen now. Marco Rubio recommended that Trump not go to Hungary because the Russian position has not changed yet. Okay, the Russians do not want to freeze the lines. The Russians want the Donbass, and they're not going to agree to a ceasefire that just freezes the lines where they are. Okay, so, and we know that Trump wants to basically freeze the lines where they are, and that's where Ukraine stands and where the Europeans stand. Okay, so still they haven't met in the middle on this. And Zelensky said that last night many strikes on energy and residential buildings occurred. Russian words about diplomacy mean nothing until the leaders of the Russian Federation feel critical problems, and this can only be ensured by sanctions, long-range strikes, and diplomacy of all our partners, okay? So strong words there from Zelensky. And in his new memoir, the former NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said that had we provided more support earlier on, many Ukrainian lives could have been saved. He said, in hindsight, I could have done even more to be even stronger in trying to convince allies to provide more military support to Ukraine in the years running up to the full-scale invasion. Wow. And in case you guys missed the major breaking news yesterday, the U.S. has informed its allies of some kind of imminent escalation in the Caribbean, okay? And this was reported by the advisor to a U.S. allied country. The advisor to the prime minister of a U.S. allied country reported that, okay? And earlier today, the NATO Secretary General said that he agrees with Trump on freezing the front lines where they are as the basis for any kind of peace deal or ceasefire with Russia. And he's supposed to be meeting with Trump right now. And multiple sources are now confirming that Russia has rejected Trump's ceasefire proposal of freezing the front lines where they are. So very, very concerning. And Poland warned Putin on Tuesday against traveling through its airspace for a possible summit in Hungary, with Trump saying that Poland could be forced to execute an international arrest warrant if he did. Wow. And a Russian Iskander ballistic missile impacted electrical infrastructure in the Kyiv region, causing multiple blackouts. And interesting news coming out of Romania and Hungary. So yesterday there were explosions reported in Romania at a Russian refinery in Romania, the Lukoil Petrotel refinery. And then later in the evening, a major fire broke out at Hungary's largest refinery in Százhalombatta, which receives crude oil through the Druzhba pipeline. That's the pipeline that comes from Russia and goes through Ukraine. The blaze followed an explosion. Wow. So possibly Ukrainian saboteurs attacking Russian facilities outside of Russia. Wow. And a railway section used for Russian military logistics was blown up overnight in the Leningrad region, halting traffic between Pskov and St. Petersburg. Sources within Ukraine's intelligence told the Kyiv Post that the explosion caused significant damage to the tracks and led to a fire involving part of a freight train carrying military cargo. Rail traffic on the route has been completely suspended. Russian emergency services arrived on site shortly after the blast, while mobile internet coverage in the area was reportedly shut down. The rail line plays a critical role in transporting military equipment and supplies towards Western Russia and occupied Ukrainian territories. Interesting. And there were some Ukrainian drone attacks in Dagestan last night. Apparently, they attacked the Dagniftagas refinery all the way in Makhachkala in Dagestan. And there is video footage of a drone impacting this refinery. So Ukraine really reaching out and touching these Russian refineries deep inside of Russia. And here we have a picture of the car that rammed into one of the barricades outside the White House. Now, this wasn't right near the actual White House. This was southwest of the White House at the junction of 17th Street and East Street Northwest. So a full block away from the White House. And then for some reason we had two E-3 Sentries moved to Hawaii last night. These are AWACS planes. And then we had a C-5 Galaxy, the heaviest military cargo plane in the U.S. military, leave Norfolk and go overseas for some reason. So it could have been moving Tomahawk missiles or something else, Patriot systems for Ukraine. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. I might be back later on tonight, closer to midnight Eastern Standard Time, with some live updates and live monitoring. Make sure you download my free app in the Google Play Store. The link is in the description down below. The app lets me notify you of emergencies and when I go live. So this way you're not reliant on YouTube or other platforms to know when I'm live. I can directly communicate with you through your phone, okay, and send out notifications. So check out my app. And until later on, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere. And before I continue with the breaking news, I wanted to mention the sponsor for this update, which is NYPrepper Supply. Guys, NYPrepper Supply is doing a massive sale on their 3-month emergency food supply. And to get the deal, you got to use my link. It's in the description below this video. It's preparewithNYPrepper.com. So they're selling their 3-month emergency food kit at 30% off. Plus, they're going to throw in an additional month of food. So that's 4 months of food. And the normal price would be $944. And they're selling it at just under $700 for 4 months of food. And this food has a 25-year shelf life. And it's all packed into rugged, watertight buckets that don't take up a lot of space in your home. And the food is obviously nutritious, which is very important for surviving any kind of SHTF situation. You can also use this food for camping and traveling. But use the link preparewithNYPrepper.com to get a free month of emergency food with your 3-month emergency food kit from NYPrepper Supply, all at 30% off, just $700 for 4 months of food. So use the link preparewithNYPrepper.com to get the deal, and the link is in the description below this video.